we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, February 2nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the storylines heading into the Super Bowl. So we'll go through that to start off. Then in the second part of the show, I'll talk about Jim Harbaugh's impact on the Chargers, for the Chargers. He met with the media, so I'll talk about that, and what the expectations are for the Chargers going forward. Then in the third part of the show, I'll talk about the more coaching hires. All the coaching hires now, all the head coaching opportunities that were out there have all been filled. Left out is Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel. So we'll talk about that and the impact of it. And then in the final part of the show, I'll talk about Robert Kraft's regret of letting go of Tom Brady, because I did see there was an article on CBS about that, so I just wanted to touch upon it and give you my thoughts. So that's it for that's the rundown for the show today. So let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about the storylines going into the Super Bowl. So obviously, there's definitely a lot of people. Well, first of all, people are talking about how this is going to be a boring Super Bowl, and it's just I don't think it's going to be. Now again, It's boring to a lot of people because it's a matchup that a lot of people didn't want to see. But I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be a good game. But, I feel like it's not going to be like the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl, where it's going to be 10-3. There's going to be a lot of scoring in this game, which I like to see. So some of the storylines. So I went on, a couple of sites to, see what they had. And first of all, so there's 10 storylines here on this Yahoo Sports article. Number 10 is, will Taylor Swift be at the Super Bowl? I mean, that's something that's not really related to the game, because I know she has like a concert the night before in Tokyo, and I saw that there was a post on how she can make it to the Super Bowl. I think she's going to do everything she can to be at this game. So I think she will be there, whether, it's going to happen. Really, I think, but some of the major storylines relating to the game, Kyle Shanahan looks for redemption. So the last two times he's been to the Super Bowl, his teams have blown leads. I mean, you go back to, of course, the Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl 28-3. And then, of course, the last time, that was when he was an offensive coordinator. Now you're talking about the last time he was a head coach in the Super Bowl. That was, of course, against the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a 10-point lead, and the Chiefs came back and won that game 31-20. So, and obviously, it's that's where the criticism comes in for Kyle Shanahan. And, there was that stat where they were, like 0-37, if they were down by 7 or more points going into the second half, or whatever the stat was. But now that they've won back-to-back games where they've come back, from deficits. So, last week was a 17-point deficit. So, we'll see what happens. Is third time a charm? Third time's a charm with Kyle Shanahan. And really now when you look at the Chiefs on their side, I mean, they're looking to try to, become a dynasty. Um, and they are on the doorstep of doing that. They are. And I said that they have to win one more Super Bowl, and they can officially be named a dynasty. Going to 6 straight conference championship games, that's as good as it gets right now. To getting close to being called a dynasty, I think they should be. If they get this ring here, they should definitely be a dynasty, and they'd be the first team to do it, first team to win back-to-back titles since the Patriots back in the early 2000s. So, and it just adds another Super Bowl ring to Patrick Mahomes' resume. I know a lot of people will be thrilled about that, from what I see all across social media. And I think also then going back to the 49ers, what a Super Bowl would mean for them. Christian McCaffrey's been in this league since 2017, George Kittle since 2018, Deebo Samuel 2019, Brandon Ayuk 2020. I think now this is going to be Ayuk's first Super Bowl and McCaffrey's. Kittle and Deebo obviously were a part of the Super Bowl team that lost to the Chiefs, back in 2019. I think these players deserve it. They've made it to the conference championship 3 years in a row. Now they've made it back to the Super Bowl. I mean, they've gotten close. It's just, they've come away with nothing. And they are going to have to do everything they can in this game because it's going to be tough going against the defending champs. But I think those players, they deserve it, and I hope they get it. Like I said, I want the 49ers to win. And then also you got to talk about their quarterback and the kind of journey that he's been on. Being the last pick in the draft. Now he's played in back-to-back conference championship games, even though the last year he didn't even make it through the first drive because he ended up getting hurt. And who knows what would have happened if he didn't get hurt. But the fact that they've made it here again and now they're in the Super Bowl, it's unbelievable. And, he's faced a lot of criticism, with all the game manager stuff. And, I think, again, he's not one of the top elite quarterbacks in the league. But I do think that he's doing things with this offense that, the previous quarterbacks on this team weren't able to do, like Garoppolo, Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance really didn't get a shot because he was hurt, but I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. I think also another small storyline going in. So Nick Bosa was talking about the tackles for the Chiefs, and he said they hold a lot. So that could be something that the Chiefs use as bulletin board material. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean that's just some of the storylines here. I don't know if there's any other ones that I was looking at. I mean, it really just it's a legacy game for Kyle Shanahan, like I said. Andy Reid, this only just puts him in the conversation as being one of the greatest head coaches of all time. What he's been able to do. I mean, bringing 2 franchises to a Super Bowl. I mean, obviously they didn't win when he was with the Eagles, but with the Chiefs, it took some time, but then they got the right quarterback, and listen, now they're, again, 6 straight conference championship games, 4 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. It's unbelievable, what they've been able to accomplish, him and Mahomes. And, we'll see what happens. We'll see who raises that trophy and who also gets Super Bowl MVP, which I actually did want to touch upon briefly because yesterday I was running through the Super Bowl MVPs from the past years, and I said, I was talking about, can a non-quarterback win it? And I said that the last position player that wasn't a quarterback to win it was Julian Edelman. It actually was not Julian Edelman, it was Cooper Kupp. And I did go back and rewatch my show from yesterday because I wanted to see because I forgot exactly what I said. But yeah, I said Matthew Stafford won it with the Rams confidently, with no hesitation. And then there were a couple of comments, and I was like, okay, let me on my episode. So I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, It was Cooper Kupp that won it instead. And I can't say it happened so long ago that I didn't remember, because I was rattling off Von Miller and Malcolm Smith that won Super Bowl MVPs. I guess I just thought Stafford won it, to be honest. But yeah, Cooper Kupp actually was the last non-quarterback to win it. So I apologize for that. I don't know why I didn't realize that, but I guess I just assumed Stafford won it. Yeah, so that was something I just wanted to touch upon. So Cooper Kupp was the last non-quarterback to win MVP. It wasn't Julian Edelman. So that's my bad. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of juice going into this Super Bowl, and I just feel like we just have so many people just complaining about the matchup, complaining who's in it. I mean, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. There's going to be points scored. It's going to be a fun time. But I understand. It's because everybody wanted the Lions and, the Ravens. I get it. But this is what we got. And for me, I'm hoping that the Niners win it. But again, we got a whole week another week to talk about this game. And then it's like, okay, well, now what? Like I said, I feel like we got a lot of juice going into this matchup, and I think, what worries me, of course, is how the 49ers have started off on offense these last 2 weeks. Because, listen, I think if you get down early against the Chiefs, I don't think they're going to be able to come back. But, that's what we thought with, like, the Packers. We thought that with the Lions. Now, again, the Chiefs are more experienced, and they have the best defense out of the 3 teams that the Niners have played in the postseason or are going to play. It's going to be different, but you know what? They can prove us wrong, which I hope they do. And also, what would a Super Bowl mean for Brock Purdy? I mean, what would that mean? I think it would still just be, well, he's still a game manager. I think you're still going to get that. I think Brock Purdy's kind of in like that, he doesn't really have a winning scenario there. I think if you win, it's going to be, well, it's because of, McCaffrey and Debo and the defense. It's not going to be because of Purdy. But, if Purdy goes out there and he has an unbelievable game and he, and he has to put together a game-winning drive at the end, maybe, maybe some of that criticism kind of dies down, but I don't know. I don't know. I still think he's a good quarterback. It's just, yeah, he's in a great situation. Both things can be true. He could be a good quarterback, but he also, is surrounded with the best supporting cast you could possibly have. Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but still, one of the top best situations you could be put into. But I don't know. I think, like I said, he's doing things with this offense that I don't think, Jimmy Garoppolo was doing. And again, Purdy's mobile. Purdy's more mobile than Garoppolo was. Also, you go back, I watched the regular season matchup they played, the Chiefs and the 49ers from, I think it was, from 2018. And Garoppolo, before he got hurt, even when the Niners first acquired Garoppolo, he looked like such a different quarterback. And I think, and I saw people were saying it in the comments of the video I was watching, after that ACL injury, Garoppolo was not the same. Because again, you go back to when they first acquired him in 2017, that 5-6 game stretch, the Niners won all the games that he played in, and he just looked like such a better he looked like such a good quarterback. And then the first couple of games of the season, he looked good, and then he tore his ACL, and he was still look, they made it to the Super Bowl. He wasn't bad. He was still solid, but I don't think he wasn't as good as I think we thought he was going to be. And I think it had a lot to do with that injury. But still, I think, going with Purdy, trading Trey Lance. I think, it's worked out fine for the Niners because they're, in the Super Bowl, and he's a part of it. He's a part of it. Whether you like it or not. But listen, like I said, we got another week to discuss this game. So with that being said, though, we are going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh and what his impact is going to be with the Chargers for the 2024 season. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're not going to talk about Jim Harbaugh and the impact that he's going to have on the Chargers. So I did watch some of his press conference last night on my way home from the city. And I mean, listen, I reading the comments too. I mean, that people are just excited with him being the head coach. I saw one of the comments was, "Thank you, Brandon Staley, for making this possible." Listen, what Jim Harbaugh has done is he's won. He's a winner. And, the 49ers tenure obviously, kind of, had a rough ending. But he did build a good team there. He really did. For that 3-year stretch, he was, that team was really good. They made it to a Super Bowl. They made it to back-to-back championship games. Obviously, they lost the game to Seattle. But that was a very good team. And, the year before he took over, I memean, people talking about Alex Smith, not really going to be anything. And, it just he changed the whole dynamic of the team. And, listen, they did lose to the Giants in the championship game. Or, wait, what did I say? Oh, I said back-to-back. No, they made it to 3 straight. What am I saying? I forgot how dare I say that I forgot the year before that, because the Giants won the Super Bowl that year. So he took them to 3 straight conference championship games. One of them ended up going to the Super Bowl. And they did lose. But all close games, by the way. I mean, the Giants game went to overtime. The Super Bowl, I mean, they had a chance at the end, and obviously you remember when he was, going like this, the holding call. He thought there should have been a hold on Crabtree, and then they lost to Seattle when Kaepernick threw the pick to got batted up, and then Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman batted it up in the air, and then he got picked off. I think it was it KJ Wright or Bobby Wagner that caught it. It was one of the two that caught it. But yeah, that was the other thing too. I mean, Alex Smith got hurt in 2012. They made the switch to Kaepernick, and they made it to the Super Bowl, lost to the Ravens, and then they made it against Seattle. Kaepernick put together 2 really good seasons with the Niners there under Harbaugh. But yeah, I mean, that kind of ended badly because again, it was like a power struggle, because I remember I was looking into that, and that was kind of why that happened. But yeah, and then he goes to Michigan, and it took some time, but he built up a really good program there, and they won the national championship, and now he's back to the NFL. I mean, he said he wants to. That's something that he wants, and you saw that because I think he was at the AFC Championship game, and they had him on with the CBS crew, and he was saying, that his desire to win a Lombardi Trophy, and he's saying that, in the press conference. Talking about meeting the players, he's getting ready to work. The Chargers are going to be a team you got to watch out for. Now, again, they have a lot of things that they have to work out because, their cap situation isn't the best, and there's a lot of players that they could possibly move off of, and I think they're going to do the best they can to keep most of their players. But there could be some that are, cap casualties. But I think, if he's able to build this team back up and make this team into a contender, I think the rest of the NFL should be worried because, we always talk about how talented Justin Herbert is. It's just we haven't seen him take that next step and get to the playoffs and win a. Well, it looked like they were going to, and then they just collapsed against the Jags, which there's a lot of blame to go around there. Obviously, Brandon Staley, who's no longer there, he's one of the main culprits in that. And Herbert looked good in that game, and then it's just the offense. I mean, I think in the second half they only scored 3 points. I think that was it. So Justin Herbert, we know, is very talented. They have talent on this team. Like I said, they got to figure out the cap situation. But if they can do that and they can keep most of these guys, I mean, you got Quentin Johnston coming out and saying he expects a big year in year 2. So we'll see. That ends up becoming true because, yeah, he had a rough rookie season. A lot of drops. And because who knows what's going to happen with Mike Williams? I mean, tore his ACL. Is he somebody that they could get rid of? And obviously Austin Eckler, we'll see what happens there. Keenan Allen, and then guys on defense, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. I mean, we could see some of these guys leaving. But like I said, I think the Chargers are going to do everything they can to keep most of the players. I think really what they have to work on is, fixing this defense because the Chargers defense was not good last year or this year. That's like one of the biggest things. Because, I mean, on offense, if you're able to keep pretty much all the guys, this offense is going to put up points. There were a couple games this year where they didn't, but against good defenses, like even against the Patriots, I mean, they won 6-0, but that was a messy game. And then also the Ravens defense kind of shut them down. But this offense will put up points. The defense is something they got to work on. And listen, I think with what Jim Harbaugh has done, he was competing with Seattle, those couple of those few seasons. I mean, this division that he's going to be in, though, I mean, we'll see what the Broncos end up doing. I mean, the Raiders, keeping Antonio Pierce, and of course the Chiefs. That's the biggest competition in the division is the Chiefs. And, Herbert has beaten the Chiefs in the past, although it's been a little bit since that's happened. I mean, the games are always competitive, like when you got all the starters playing. Because I know the first time he beat the Chiefs were resting their guys. But in 2021, week 2, they beat them in Arrowhead. But, I mean, like I said, those games are always competitive for the most part. So, I mean, if you can improve that defense, you get a healthy Herbert for next year. If you bring back Mike Williams and he's healthy, rebounds from the ACL, and Keenan Allen's back, and we'll see what they do with running back if Eckler is still going to be there, or if because I don't know what the situation is with Eckler. I mean, they have talent in place. It's just they gotta, continue to build up that roster. Because again, the defense that was the problem last year. I keep saying last year. I mean, I guess technically you could say last year, but it's whatever. We still got the Super Bowl to be played. So, I mean, listen, I mean, there's a lot of people that love this hire. It's a good. I think it's a good fit. I mean, this was a destination I thought Belichick maybe could have went to, but I guess that was never really a possibility. But I I really think this this is going to pan out. This is going to pan out, and we'll see. And Justin Herbert hopefully takes that next step, and wins a playoff game. I mean, it's too early to tell. I mean, we got to see what they do in the draft, what they got to do in free agency, how they fix this cap situation. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, with this team. And, once that happens, then we'll start talking about, can this team be a playoff team? I mean, I think anything is possible. I mean, look at the teams that exceeded expectations this year, So we'll see. But I think it's only up from here for the Chargers. I mean, it's just Brandon Staley had to go. And the Chargers, made that known when they just did not try against the Raiders on that Thursday night, and the Raiders scored 60 points. I still can't believe we saw 2 games this year where teams scored 60 or more points. You had the Raiders doing that, and then, of course, you had the Broncos. 2 AFC West teams had 60-plus points dropped on them, and then you had the Broncos losing, having the Dolphins drop 70 points against them. Yeah. But, yeah, the Chargers made it known that they're kind of done with the Brandon Staley, and they bring in Harbaugh, and we'll see what happens. I think you could also look at it from the other angle where, he's been out of the league for a while, so I don't know, how is he going to adjust? I mean, we'll see. Again, we got to see what happens. We got a long way to go, but I mean, is it possible that this ends up not working out? I mean, yeah. I mean, anything is possible, but I think I think the Chargers they're not gonna regret this. This is going to work out, and we'll see. I mean, he wants to win a Super Bowl. That's the biggest thing. He wants to win a Super Bowl, and it's going to be very tough because you're stepping into a loaded conference, but you could be a part of that conversation. Because you have the quarterback, you got the talent on offense, the defense. Again, that's something they're gonna have to fix. I mean, of course, you got Derwin James as well, who I didn't mention. That was another player that he talked about as well. They got pieces in place. It's just you gotta, enhance that, surround that with more talent. And again, it's easier said than done, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, now you got a new GM, and they're gonna have to put their heads together and how they're gonna approach the draft, how they're gonna approach free agency. And like I said, cap situation too. I think it's it's like $54 million over the cap, something like that. So, but I listen. Like I said, it's only up from here for the Chargers, in my opinion. So. So we'll just have to wait and see. But the Chargers, they definitely will be an improved team next year. If you got everybody's healthy, I mean, of course you're gonna deal with injuries along the way, but you get Herbert back healthy. I think this team will be improved because you look at the other teams in the division besides the Chiefs, of course. The Broncos have question marks at quarterback, Raiders have question marks at quarterback, so that's something. The Chargers have a leg up on those teams. So before we go into our second break of the show, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will then touch upon Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel. It looks like there's no head coaching jobs for them for the 2024 season. And I'll talk about the recent hires, both on the head coaching side and the coordinator side as well, because there were more hires. And that will be the third part of the show. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the head coaching spots now all being filled, and the fact that there is going to be no Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel on the sidelines, at least head coaching wise for 2024. So more head coaching news yesterday. So the Commanders, they hired Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn to be their next head coach, which I was a little surprised, because I just thought, especially after the playoff game that the Cowboys just had, I thought, I don't think he's getting a job. But he ends up getting a job. He went 43-42 with the Falcons as their head coach. This is now going to be his second stint now as a head coach. He went 14-23 from 2018 to 2020, which ended his tenure as a Falcons coach. Now, listen, I didn't like this move, but he did improve the Cowboys' defense, because that was something that was an issue for a couple of years. But I don't know. There were a couple of games this year, including the playoff game, where the Cowboys' defense just gave up a lot of points. You'll go the Seattle game. Again, the playoff game against the Packers. It's just, I don't know. I think the Cowboys just flat out just weren't prepared. But it's just, I don't know. I just feel like that just left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. It just, I was like, I don't think he's gonna get a job. He shouldn't get a job after that. But he goes to the Commanders are like, come on down, be our new head coach. I don't know. Listen, he did build up a good team with the Falcons. And it did help that he had Kyle Shanahan on his staff, being the offensive coordinator. It's not like, he was always, it just, everything, he was always a bad coach. It's just, it changed after, and of course he was with part of the Seahawks, for the couple years that he was there. They won the Super Bowl. That's what, got him the opportunity, with the Falcons. I just think, I don't know. It's just ever since that Super Bowl collapse, it's just like, it, again, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And, he got the opportunity to be the DC for the Cowboys. And you know what? Again, turn the Cowboys defense around, but still, you're coming off of a playoff game where the Packers dropped 48 points against you. Like, I don't think you should be getting a job. But the Commanders decided that was what they wanted to do. And now the Cowboys got to look for a new DC, so, which I'll be honest, I think, after what just happened, I think that's beneficial for them. So, I don't know. That's the one hire that was kind of a head scratcher. But, so with that, and actually before I get into the topic of, discussion here, so there were other coordinator jobs that have been filled. So you had the Ravens promoting Zach Orr to be their new defensive coordinator, obviously with Mike Macdonald now leaving to go coach in Seattle. Then you have the Patriots hiring Alex Van Pelt to be their new OC. So he's going to be that's the Patriots offensive coordinator. The Rams, they promoted Chris Schuler to be their new defensive coordinator, now with Raheem Morris leaving to become the head coach of the Falcons. Cliff Kingsbury makes his return to the sidelines. He will be the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. So obviously he was, the head coach with the Cardinals, before he was let go. But now he is going to be the OC for the Raiders. And then Liam Cohen is going to be the offensive coordinator, the new offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he had 2 stints with both the Rams and Kentucky over the last few seasons. He spent some time with Sean McVay. So, yeah, those are again more coordinator jobs that were filled up. But now, the main topic here is the fact that there's going to be no Belichick or Vrabel. All the head coaching spots have been filled. And it's just really odd. Now, I understand Belichick, I kind of understand, because if he's not willing to adapt and take a back seat and let, somebody else be the GM. So if there's like the power struggle thing, I understand that. But, I mean, it's Bill Belichick. And I did see that Marlon Humphrey, he tweeted something, taking a shot at Belichick, talking about and this should end the debate of greatest coach of all time. I don't know. I mean, listen, it's not a good look for Belichick that once Brady left, which we'll talk about in the next segment, the final segment, it's not good that he left and the Patriots just kind of fell apart. That doesn't look good on Belichick. But I mean, I think you still gotta, he still should be given a shot. The fact that he is now he's nowhere now. All the head coaching spots have been filled. It's unbelievable. But, you go to the Falcons, you have a couple of interviews, and they go well. They interviewed, I think, 17 candidates. It's wild that he didn't. You thought when he got the second interview, I thought, okay, I guess maybe he's going to Atlanta. No, they went with Raheem Morris. I mean, even the Commanders, they went with Dan Quinn. I mean, Raheem Morris, Dan Quinn. I mean, you're taking those guys over Bill Belichick? I mean, you can't. I get it. The Patriots are coming off of an awful season. But, I don't know. It's interesting. And I don't know where Belichick goes from here. I mean, I don't think he's done coaching. I think one way or another he'll find a way back in. But I guess for the time being, he's just going to have to sit out for this year. And then maybe, this would be good. Maybe this is good for him. Maybe, he takes the year off and, he comes back and, he adapts. Maybe he says, you know what, I got to take a back seat, because I think the guy could still coach. It's just when it comes to the GM side of things, with drafting and free agency, maybe that's something that he should be. I mean, he should have some input, but you should have other people making those decisions. And because the guy can still coach a good defense, and I think, again, you surround him with the right talent, he's still going to be a good coach. It's just, I don't know. It's just that it's about that GM side, and I guess it seems like he doesn't want to give that up. But yeah, and then you got Mike Vrabel. I feel like same thing. I mean, well, listen, he did 2 different resumes, obviously, but I get it. Some rough years in Tennessee, but how does he not have a head coaching job? You're telling me you couldn't? The Commanders, they didn't consider him. I mean, did Vrabel even? Let's see if we could look it up. Yeah, because Vrabel got interviewed, right? But I guess it never went anywhere. Yeah, it is very strange. Yeah, so he did interview with the Falcons. Yeah, so he did interview with the Panthers as well. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand. Listen, I'd take him as a defensive coordinator or something. I don't know. With the Giants, get him on the staff. But yeah, it's odd. It's odd that these two guys just were left out of the, they're musical chairs. I mean, they just they didn't find a chair, and they're again, they're on the outside looking in, which is it's strange. But like Belichick, like I said, the power struggle thing, that makes sense, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean all the head coaching spots have been filled. I mean, again, anything can happen. Like, a head coach could, resign or something, or, maybe a team's just like, you know what, we want one of those guys, and they just, let go of their current head coach, which I again, that scenario I keep saying, but it's not going to happen. It doesn't, or at least I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's gonna be weird though next year not seeing Belichick on the sidelines, because that's just something that's ever since I started watching football, that's how it's been. Bill Belichick is on the sideline coaching the Patriots, and now not only is he not coaching the Patriots, he's not coaching anybody. Or unless Belichick, bring him in as the defensive coordinator, we'll take him. As I was talking about that with my mom, and we were like, yeah, if make him the DC, and then well, even though he's not going to want to do that, but he becomes the defensive coordinator, and if Dable doesn't work out, then promote him to be the head coach. I don't know. It's yeah, it's. I mean, I don't really know what else to say, but I think it's one of those things where you got to adapt, and you see, the coaches that are having success, they adapt. I mean, Andy Reid's had to adapt, coaching for a long time, I mean, it also helps when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, but still, like, they're the ones that drafted Patrick Mahomes, and they put him in a good system. He sat behind Alex Smith. It's just I mean, Belichick's like a little different. You kind of just have to say, listen, you got to take a back seat a little bit. Let somebody else make the decisions. When it comes to bringing in players. Because Belichick could coach the players, but, it's just, he's had a lot of flops with free agency and, the draft. I mean, drafting N'Keal Harry over DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. It's just, it's been a rough couple of seasons for the Patriots. For Belichick. But I think he will find his way back. I don't think he wants to. I think he's still motivated to prove that he can win without Brady. Although again, it's not looking good right now. Especially because when we get into the final part of the show, he was kind of the reason why Brady didn't finish his career with the Patriots. He had some influence in that. So, I mean, they did make the playoffs, but it didn't really matter because they got absolutely destroyed by the Bills. And then it just kind of was a downward spiral from there. 8-9, and then, the season they had this year. It's just not good. And, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. It's just, again, it's going to be strange that he's not going to be on the sidelines in 2024 as a head coach. Vrabel, same thing. I know, again, a couple of rough seasons there in Tennessee. But, again, you brought he was part of the team that, went to the AFC Championship game. Like, I don't know. I feel like, the Titans, their team kind of just like, I mean, I don't think he was the reason A.J. Brown got traded. That was a mistake. But, that's just, that's what they decided to do. And, Tannehill, obviously, his production kind of dropped the last couple of seasons, which you kind of figured that was going to happen once they put him in over Mariota and he was unbelievable. That wasn't going to last. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But for the moment, I mean, we're not going to see these guys on the sideline for 2024. So, with that being said, though, we will take we're going to take our final break of the show here, and then when we come back, we will discuss Robert Kraft's regret. So again, there was an article on CBS that I was reading, and he was just basically saying that they shouldn't have gotten rid of Tom Brady, which it was something that was kind of known already, but I just wanted to touch upon it and give my thoughts on that. And that is what we will do when we come back from our final break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about Robert Kraft's regret of letting go of Tom Brady after the 2019 season. So obviously they had Brady Day to start the season, the first game of the season against the Eagles. And Robert Kraft told Tom Brady Sr. that he regretted, he made a mistake letting go of Brady, because Brady Sr. said to the Boston Globe in an interview that, Robert Kraft basically told him that they made a mistake. And this was the other quote that I think this is Brady Sr. He said, "We don't all make the right decision, but he's made a lot of good ones over the years, but I knew that it galls him that Tommy went elsewhere and won." Yeah, so this is Brady Sr., yeah. And not that he won, but that he won after Bill said he was done. And, and Kraft reportedly said back in 2021, Bill had told me he couldn't play anymore, and then he goes out and wins the Super Bowl. You go back to the 2019 season. The Patriots got off to that really good start, and but you could tell the offense it wasn't, they really weren't clicking on offense. And Brady was still putting up decent numbers. It's not like he's playing like Peyton Manning was his final season, but again, it just it wasn't a Tom Brady type season, and he ended up finishing. So 2019 he had 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, still passed for over 4,000 yards. But then, look at what he did the following 2 seasons with the Bucs. 40 touchdowns to 12 picks, and then 43 touchdowns to 12 picks. Now, again, I think, it had to do with roster construction. He was throwing to, N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman was breaking down, rookie Jacoby Myers. The tight end position was awful. And what was their big acquisition they made that year? Mohamed Sanu, they traded for him. It's just that now the defense was really good. It's just the offense, Brady didn't really have a lot to work with that year. They brought in Benjamin Watson. Who else was it? Was Matt LaCosse on that team? It's just it was not a good team that Brady was surrounded by. And again, I kind of understand, but at the same time, Belichick's rationale, because again, Brady is was in his 40s. You don't usually see that. But then, he ends up going to Tampa. Solid offensive line. You bring in Leonard Fournette to go along with, and you also bring in Gronk. Gronk comes out of retirement. You get Antonio Brown. Mike Evans, you already got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there, and Brady had a really good 2 years. The third year, yeah, but there was, offensive line was injured. No Gronk. again, playing well into his 40s. I mean, you got to surround him with as much talent. He needs help. So it's just it was definitely a mistake. But you know what? It's on the Patriots for not surrounding them with more talent. I mean, again, the big acquisition in 2019, they went out and they got Mohamed Sanu. It was kind of, past his prime. It's and again, I mean, we just talked about Belichick in the last segment. I mean, Brady left and they went 7-9. I mean, Brady stays. The Patriots probably don't go 7-9. They probably still make the playoffs. I mean, do they win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But the Brady effect was real because he left, and I mean, look at what the Patriots are now. But again, I mean, I understand. Like, Brady's getting older; he's in his 40s, and they probably thought, yeah, he probably can't do it anymore. But then, Brady said, all right, I'll go to Tampa, and with better weapons, bring in my guys, and see what I could do. And and they won the Super Bowl. Now, again, a lot of that had to do with also the defense. But, I mean, you run it back with Jameis Winston in 2020. I mean, the Bucs are not sniffing the Super Bowl. They're just not. And, yeah, I mean, listen, and it was an interesting year because it was during the pandemic and there was, no training camp and no preseason. It was just, it was a weird year. And, the Bucs, they got off to a slow start. But, they put it together in the second half, and they were a team you didn't want to face. And believe me, my dream was to see Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady play in the Super Bowl, and we got to see them play in an NFC Championship game, and I got to see Brady beat him. So, in Lambeau. And then, of course, he went on and, that team, dismantled the Chiefs. And, yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. But, yeah, I mean, Robert Kraft should be regretting that. But again, did we really think that he was going to go and win a Super Bowl the first year on a new team? I don't think so. I mean, once, you got to the playoffs, you're like, yeah, this team, I mean, they got Antonio Brown and Gronk and, the weapons they already had there, Mike Evans and Godwin. Fournette and Ronald Jones were running the football well for them. Ronald Jones was good in the regular season, Fournette, because I think Ronald Jones got hurt, and then Fournette took over in the postseason, playoff Lenny. But then you got the defense with Pierre Paul and Sue and Devin White, Levante David, Shaq Barrett. I mean, that defense was unbelievable. It's yeah. I mean, I don't think I would have said the Bucs were going to win the Super Bowl the first year with Brady, but it happened. I thought they were going to win it the second year, but then injuries happened, and that just didn't. That didn't end up. And listen, they almost came back against. Well, they did come back against the Rams, but they just couldn't finish the job. But that was a crazy time. Brady with the Bucs. But you know what? Again, it's on the Patriots though, because they, if you surrounded him with more talent, you would have got more out of him. And they didn't do that. He goes from what he had in New England. I mean, it was paradise in Tampa. Weapons galore. It's too bad, for them that Antonio Brown just kind of I don't know what happened with him, but it just it was great. I mean, they got a Super Bowl. You got a Super Bowl with that team, so if you, and the Patriots did have Antonio Brown for a game in 2019. That's right. They had him. It was week 2 against the Dolphins. They had him. And he had a great game. And it was like, wow, this is great. The Patriots now have Antonio Brown. Well, I'm saying it sarcastically because it's like, oh, no, this is not good. But then, obviously, he didn't play a single game after that. And, the Patriots had to roll with what they had. But, I mean, listen, Brady got them to the playoffs. It's just they were one and done. They lost to the Titans, but they didn't have a lot of talent on offense. And again, as these quarterbacks get older, you want to surround them with as much talent as possible because, again, Brady being in his 40s, he's not going to be able to carry the offense on his own. Needs some help. And the Patriots just didn't do that. But again, like in the previous segment, this is what I'm talking about with Belichick. Just he was not, with his drafts and his free agency, it wasn't good. Now people are trying. I think there was also like talk about maybe he was like trying to just like sabotage Brady. Which, I mean, listen, you go back to 2014. I mean, Belichick wanted Garoppolo as the starter. I'm pretty sure. But Kraft was like, no, we're keeping Brady. And what happened? Brady won a Super Bowl, then a couple years later, another Super Bowl, and then a couple years later, another Super Bowl. And all throughout that, they were making the conference championship every single year. It's just they lost to Peyton a couple times. Well, actually, no. Well, 2015, because 2014, the year before 2014, 2013, the Broncos won. But yeah, they won in 2014. 15, they lost to Peyton. 16, they won. 17, they made it to the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Eagles and Nick Foles. And then 2018, they beat the Rams. But I mean, 2018, 2019, the offense, it was kind of, dipping a little bit. Because, let's be honest, 2018 when they won, I mean, did we think they were going to win the Super Bowl that year? But then they flipped that switch, I mean, they dismantled the Chargers. They, got in a shootout with the Chiefs. They won that. And then they won a close game in the Super Bowl against the Rams, which was boring. And then 2019, what did they get off to, like a 10-1 start? And then they just, they struggled. They lost the number 2 seed to the Chiefs because they lost to the Dolphins the final game of the regular season. And then, then they got bounced out by the Titans. And you kind of thought that was it. And then Brady goes to Tampa and they won the Super Bowl. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots, you surround them with more talent. I mean, it didn't help that Gronk retired, because Brady and Gronk have a special connection. I mean, that's one of the greatest combinations of all time is Brady and Gronk. And obviously he goes to Tampa. I mean, they relit the flame, and they still were great in Tampa. You got to have a good tight end, and the Patriots in 2019 did not have a tight end. They just didn't. There was no threat there. But I mean, it's just you can't go back. I mean, I understand the move at the time, but also it's like, well, maybe if you saw what Brady did in Tampa, it's like, well, if you would have maybe, did better at surrounding him with talent, you could have had another Super Bowl, and they just didn't do that. So, that was just something I wanted to touch upon. But again, I think, once Brady won the Super Bowl with Tampa, I mean, and I think it's already, we already knew, like, that Kraft regretted it. We knew Belichick has wanted to get rid of Brady in the past. It's just, again, Belichick and Brady after the breakup, I mean, complete opposite directions. Brady wins a Super Bowl, and the Patriots now, they just are coming off of one of their worst seasons ever. And Belichick is without a job, So it really has teetered more towards it was more about Brady than Belichick. But you know what? Then you also got a lot of people saying they needed each other. And yeah, I mean, listen, Belichick coaches a good defense. I mean, they had a lot of success together. So you can't just, I mean, I would say it was still more Brady, but, Belichick had a lot to do with it too, but yeah, so that's pretty much it with the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday, same time, which it'll officially be Super Bowl week. So, we'll have some more Super Bowl topics to discuss to get ready for the big game. And, so until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Also, enjoy the Pro Bowl festivities. Watch that flag football game with Eli and Peyton coaching the NFC and the AFC. So enjoy that, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.